Hello and welcome to Flowing Through Film, episode 29. This week we are starting our horror month, basically, with silent horror, and we're going to be going over. We actually did add a George Méliès movie, thank God. The Merry Frolics of Satan, 1906, Dante's Inferno, 1911, and Häxan, A Story of Witchcraft. I think is the full title, but it might honestly just be Häxan, but 1922. And before we start, I'll introduce my hosts, Luke.
Hi.
And Danny.
Hello.
Okay, let's just dive right into it. So, how many Méliès movies have you guys seen? Or have you seen any?
This is my second one.
Second one?
The only one, the one I've seen is A Trip to the Moon. So,
Okay.
Okay.
I definitely want to watch more now. Though.
Oh yeah, no, Méliès is amazing.
Yeah.
Danny?
I want to boost my Letterboxd stats, you know, like.
Well, you watched The Man with the or
Yeah,
The
I
Man with
watched
the
the one
Rubber
you
Head
told
at
me about
least,
to watch
that was
earlier,
awesome. But
I think I've seen 3.
okay, so definitely not too much. But so Méliès just in general is an extremely interesting character because him and the Lumiere brothers basically started cinema as we know it, kind of. And Méliès himself is just my favorite because I haven't seen too many Lumiere brother movies, but from what I understand, they're kind of more so like documentary, whereas George Méliès was more like he wanted to see what he could do with movie camera.
I kind of think of
Lumiere
Lumiere Brothers
and the effects.
Lumiere Brothers were like, I think of them like as like they were literally the star. While like I feel like Lumiere. What's his name again? Méliès was like inspired by them. He progressed it.
He definitely like remade a lot of movies that the Lumiere brothers made also. So like it was like he definitely was influenced by them heavily. But the thing with Méliès that I love is the fact that he is trying to push special effects in general and just kind of what you can do with movies. And we see that obviously in the Merry Frolics of Satan. It starts off with what I think we just followed just two guys the entire time. This is technically a comedic take on the Faust allegory.
Which
so
it was pretty funny.
No, it's definitely funny.
Yeah, like they like it's like this guy's like. Isn't like the devil like disguised as like a guy with a beard or something? Like a wizard?
No, he is. Yeah, he's a wizard, and he's a wizard because he doesn't want the two characters to know he's the devil or something, basically. Yeah. And so like he tricks them into basically drinking this potion, I think. And then they go into the train scene, and as they're like going off into like the chests, or like to go look at the chests, like the devil like actually changes back into the devil. That's whenever you first see him for the first time. Yeah. But just in those,
he does kind of just jump right in. Like,
he does.
I'm trying to figure out like, is that the evil guy? Like
where's Satan now?
Where's Satan at? And they pops out, and this is also like stenciling. The stenciling because George Méliès loved stenciling, and his stencil work was very expensive, very hard to do, and I'm just glad that it honestly survived. Because stenciling itself is beautiful.
Yeah. Honestly, I was kind of thinking about this. Like, you see, like on like YouTube, you'll see like like late spring is like colorized, and like I hate that. But then like I see stenciling, I'm like, oh.
Well, I mean, because the stenciling, like he said, it was part of the director's envision. That's that's not a colorized version.
Yeah, I mean, they're literally coloring every frame of the movie, so it's not like an AI going over it and just like doing that. Like it's literally each person. Like there are multiple people just literally coloring scenes. But that's like we see Satan, he has this red kid. It also looks kind of funny, but that's what it's supposed to be, George Méliès, comedy director. Then we first off, the scene in the alchemy lab is kind of just cool because it portrays kind of what I'm talking about with Méliès and his special effects with like firstly, I mean, the devil popping up out of nowhere, or like changing from the blizzard. You have like the telescope just coming down, bonking people on the heads.
A million trapdoors,
yes. And then we get to where he really starts to go off with the chests.
Yes,
And
just to before we leave the beginning, I think he is trying to contrast though, like the scientific aspect, like they're obviously scientists versus like the devil is almost like a magician.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good. That's
at least to me, I thought he was trying to contrast those two.
No, that's a good contrast. Even if he wasn't trying to, that's a good contrast that you point out.
Especially since, because you were talking a little bit earlier between the difference between the Lumiere brothers and Méliès, in terms of one being more documentary style, and more like Méliès is here. He's more, I guess the word I would use is magical, basically.
Yes.
Magical is a good word, and that's what's. I think at least when I saw the very first like scene, I kind of thought of that as like he's almost maybe trying to reveal like the scientists are the ones doing the magic almost. That's what movies were, right? Like
it is
because Méliès, even though he was taking a lot from Lumiere brothers in terms of technology, he also was a very technological person.
Yes, he was
very like knew a lot about cameras. He was doing his own thing.
He had to,
right? So
obviously,
he was obviously like a lot of, and that's what's cool about film. A lot of the first filmmakers were scientists. You know, they were literally or engineers, right? More than artists. They were more engineers. Yes, and that's what's cool. At least it made me think of that, even if he wasn't directly saying, obviously.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably was directly saying that, at least somewhat. But it is a good point, because even in like Häxan, we'll see, like, back in the day, if you could do stuff that was scientific, you were a magician. Like that. Exactly. And that's what that definitely is what he's probably trying to say. Yes.
An audience, you were doing something magic. You were a magician.
Yes.
Now it's like, especially with Häxan later on, it's look, our film or the camera can actually reveal that the magic is actually scientific.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't mean it's not taking the magic away, but it's making it scientific.
It's explaining
right?
it.
Yes, it's explaining it. Exactly. And that's what he's doing with the Witches movie. Yeah. But we're jumping ahead.
We are jumping ahead. We'll continue down the magical realm of just like freaking like, I think it's just demons popping out of chests at this point. And then the chest slowly, I think they get the girls into the chest somehow, or the girls might have just appeared in the chest. I'm not sure, because I know
it's like a Russian doll with chests out.
It is a Russian doll with chests for sure, because that's how because they get 5 chests out. I know like they come into the scene of like a family. I think it's the scientist family or whatever. And so like and then all those girls or whatever are the ones that put into the chest, you know, or put into the train, because the chests all turn into a train,
which is also cool.
Yeah. Which is it's a very cool scene, and this is what starts us on the Merry Frolic of Satan that Satan takes us on, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
So like
where it actually starts. Yeah.
Yeah. So we start the train ride. I think we lose all the girls on the bridge, but
it is a cool shot though of that part falling.
Yes.
Like because the train it's just moving. All of a sudden you see the back half fall off.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. It's a cool shot.
Honestly, this like what is it like like it's like a sleigh, like a Santa sleigh or something.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what it reminded me of. Like my favorite part of the movie is when they're just like flying, and then you just see like the planets. Like there's like Saturn.
Oh yeah. And we'll get to that for sure.
Oh, is that what
That's not what we're talking about.
Okay.
Right now we're talking about the train ride.
Yeah.
Oh, so like the train ride to the village where like the first haunted house scene takes place, and like one of the first hauntings like actually starts to take place. But well, the entire movie is basically a haunting. But we lose all the girls off the bridge basically. Which I honestly don't know how they made this train move like it did on the tracks. I'm sure they're just pulling it with a string or a crane or something.
Yeah.
But it looks very convincing. So
they're probably pulling it slowly and speeding up the camera.
Yeah, like that. I mean, that must be what it is, because it doesn't. It definitely doesn't feel like the silent movie frame rate. You know.
Yeah. That's
so.
A good question, I mean, that's true with a lot of Méliès movies. Even now, it's like, how do you do that? Like,
that's like every Méliès movie I watch. I'm like, what the fuck? No, but then we finally get to the village, and like this is where the demons pop out and start to harass them or harass the main characters that we're following along.
And this is definitely where you can see Méliès was like, okay, this is really what movies can do. We can just make people appear all over the place.
Literally just popping up out of the fucking ground, all the like tables disappearing, and there are definitely cuts because you can see them every once in a while, but a lot of it is definitely just like it's seamless almost, you know, like. And honestly, I don't know if you guys have, because I know you've seen a lot of Chaplin shorts, but like this specifically, like this haunted house scene specifically is a lot. Like it definitely influenced a lot of slapstick later on, especially Buster Keaton. Like Buster Keaton literally has a movie called The Haunted House, and it's a lot like.
I was about to ask, does Chaplin have a short where he like has a haunted house in any capacity? Like, I guess the closest thing is the beginning of the circus when he's in the. The circus museum. Yeah, I know what you're talking
like
about. The fun house.
The fun house.
Yeah, but
that's a good question because. I mean, the beginning too with the telescopes hitting them. And
it's very slapstick. The whole movie's definitely very slapstick.
I mean, people wanted to see slapstick, you know.
Like, people wanted fun,
and those were some of the first movies were slapstick comedy. Like those were the most popular. Yeah, obviously with Chaplin, but
and with Méliès. But after this is when we finally get to like the main scene of this whole movie, and this is like when they get out of the hotel or the inn or whatever they're in. There's just a carriage waiting there.
Yeah.
They don't know who has the carriage. I think, because like the devil's there and he's still disguised as a normal man. And I can't remember if he's the same like wizard looking guy or not, because they do trust him because they get into the carriage. They get into the carriage and then he changes the carriage into the skeletal horse, and like it's basically just a carriage ride from hell at that point.
Oh yeah. So and just what I was gonna say earlier,
you
just
go
like
on to your point.
when you see like the planets in the background, like the guy's like escaping, like there's like a hole in Saturn, he's like stepping out of Saturn.
Yeah, dude.
I think there's like some like ladies like laying on the moon or something.
Yeah, no, there's just a bunch of like I consider them gods and goddesses probably because I'm assuming at least the ones laying on the planets are like what you would say like Saturn, like the god, like Mars or stuff like that. Like like these are maybe just the gods of the time, but. I don't know.
No, but that whole scene is amazing. Like, because the horses like spin upside down, like initially on the carriage and stuff. Like, he's basically like, okay, what we can do here to make it cool, you know? Like,
he was literally just trying everything to make this look like.
Especially like you said, this is the movie he's probably building up to.
This is what he wanted to build up to. Yeah, this is the scene he was building up to, and because it's so cool because it starts off slow, obviously, like the overlays in the background are slow because you're just journeying through the stars. And then as you're starting to get closer towards the end, it's like he speeds up those stars and like something weird's about to happen. And then he drives them all into a volcano.
And a good volcano shot too.
A great volcano shot.
It surprised me how quick it happened too. Like you don't even get enough time to process it. Like you just like they go straight to the volcano and it explodes.
It explodes, they go back down to the dining room or like to the haunted house, I'm pretty sure, or the inn, I mean. And then the devil just pops up out of the ground, chooses one of the two that we've been following, takes him down to hell and spit roasts him and eats him. So
it just like
that's how it is.
It kind of ends really suddenly.
It does, and that's honestly how a lot of Méliès movies kind of are, because even at this point they don't, and we'll get into this because Danny and I were arguing about Dante's Inferno about what movies can be, but they are definitely still trying to figure out what movies can be, and Méliès did not know how to like make this a movie, like a cohesive movie. This is like a lot of Méliès movies are definitely just idea movies. Like he wants to show you the experimental movies. Yes, definitely. He just wants you to experience something like something you've never experienced before, and I'm sure no one's ever experienced a carriage ride from hell in 1906. So no, I love Méliès, and I think both of you guys like this, didn't you? Hopefully,
definitely, it's just it makes me want to watch more Méliès,
and honestly,
pushing the medium
forward
this early in the history of cinema is crazy.
And it just makes me happy, like people this soon were realizing, like the stuff movies could do. Like you could tell he must have been having so much fun too. Like look what you can do. You can make a person disappear and reappear. You can make 10 people pop into a room.
Like I think I've watched like close to 15 to 20 Méliès movies, which is not even close. Like he has 200 to 300 or 400 movies or something.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of losses.
No, definitely a lot of them lost. But every single one, like there are so many ones where it's just he does do the thing that you're talking about, where he just wants to. He's like, oh, isn't this so cool how there's like this person right here, and then they're not there anymore. Or it's like, there's this, the exploding head, the rubber head, just expanding a head on a black background. It's just like really cool.
Does he ever like move the camera, like have any camera movement?
Not really.
Okay, I don't
but he's mostly a static camera. I feel
that's what I pick up on.
But I don't know. It's just. Because there's this one that's like it's like a boxing match between a fat guy and a skinny guy, and it's like the fat guy knocks the skinny guy over, and the skinny guy jumps on the fat guy, and he explodes, and it's just like this is literally the movies he's wanting to make. So
I don't know if that can live up to Boxing Cats for myself.
I haven't seen Boxing Cats.
But like it's classic. To me, it's cool. Not even because the story. Obviously, the movies themselves are good, and they're fun to watch. Yeah. But it's even cooler just to think about, or at least for me anyway, it's cooler to think about Méliès literally thinking about this stuff. Like, okay, how can I apply this thing I can do to a movie, to make it actually interesting so people want to watch it, to where even Blake's watching them.
Do you guys know what Méliès did before he made movies? Is that because I'm thinking about Todd T before he did his physical comedy pantomime style. He was a what do you call what's it called, he was a, I forgot what it was called. Where he performed in the
like a mime.
Not really. Well, he performed at I forgot the term for it though.
You'll have to remind us when we do the Tati series, or I'll look it up.
I don't know
because this is something that I'm looking at the Letterboxd description of Méliès, and apparently he discovered the substitution stop trick in 1896. The method for creating seamless disappearing and or appearing effects used throughout both films and television for decades. He discovered that by accident. And that's crazy.
I think he's
that's one of the things
we've
been talking about with Méliès. Like that's one of his basic. That's one of his go-tos.
He loves it.
It's like, oh, I discovered this now. I have to make movies.
Okay,
like,
now I have to make movies.
Tati was in the music hall basically. He performed in the music hall, and that kind of gave him the skills for that. So I'm wondering, what did Méliès do before that gave him the skills?
Well, it just says, at least on Letterboxd, that he was an inventor, but I'm not sure. I mean, that's what I was assuming he was probably an inventor of some kind, or an engineer. But like his first movie, I have seen his first movie. It's called The Vanishing Lady, which this makes a lot more sense because it was made in 1896. So he literally discovered this method, and then he made one about a vanishing lady.
Dan, you might not like this, but he originally started in theater.
Who?
I'm sorry.
You might not like
this. I love theater. I love theater.
Okay, that's a good transition though. Let's just get to Dante's Inferno. So this is the movie that none of us saw before this podcast.
None of us even heard.
None of us had even heard about it, which is honestly a travesty because it's the first Italian feature. Yeah, one of the first. Honestly, it's one of the first like legit horror movies, I'd say.
Probably.
1911 is very early for a horror movie.
Definitely
that doesn't have some
feature horror movie.
Yeah.
This is the thing. This is where. Yes, it is, to us anyway, watching it, it's a horror movie. Would this been a horror movie to them?
Yes.
Yeah.
It would have been even more.
Even more, yeah.
Okay, we're just saying horror as a genre, though. Like, this would have been an adaptation of Dante's Inferno for someone watching it then. And they would have said it's scary and everything, right? But it still would have been to them more of like an adaptation of Dante's Inferno. Not the way we're describing it as like in the horror genre.
I think it could be both, though.
For us, it can be both. But was it for someone then? Back then, they weren't going and watching it being like, "Oh, this is a horror movie," you know.
Well,
they were going and
watching
it like, "Oh, we're going." But as we're doing now, we're going back and watching it as a horror.
But I don't think like if they were going to watch Dante's Inferno, I don't think they were going to watch a pleasant movie. You know, like.
Okay, but is that what horror is then? Just not pleasant?
Yes.
Okay,
definitely.
that's a good description. I mean, if that's your description of horror, then yeah.
But at least back in the day, like if you're going to see a movie called like Il Inferno or something like whatever.
If you're going through hell in the movie, it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows.
But we'll talk about it in the episode. But most people going to watch this would have known the book already.
Yes,
they would have known a lot about it. You know, they would have already known.
It's one of the most popular books of all time, for sure.
Yes. So that's why I'm like, they're on like to me they would have gone to see this more like if someone was a big fan of comic books and they were going to watch an MCU movie for the first time. Not obviously you say that as derogatory, but I'm saying that as a good thing. Like,
I'm saying that as a good thing. I love MCU movies.
People knew these characters their whole life, and now they want to go see what it's looked like on a movie.
Yeah, for sure. I maybe for sure.
Especially since that's what Dante's Inferno is. You know, that's why it's been popular throughout all time. It does a really good job with the images of hell. You know, and I mean. That's horror, basically. So
it is, yes.
So we figured this out. This is a horror movie, guys.
We figured this out.
It's a horror movie, but what I'm saying is, I don't think the people at the time, or even the people making it, were trying to make a horror movie at the way people would make a horror movie now. You know, they were trying to make
a horror movie now. Sure, yeah, maybe.
But that's what horror is, right? Like, the horror genre wasn't even existent in the 1911s.
Not as we know it now. For sure,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't have been a concept to them, really. That doesn't mean it has. Obviously it has horror elements. Yes. And for us, it definitely is a horror movie. Now looking back on it, but it's more of like a religious movie.
It's definitely. Movie, but, I consider it a religious movie.
It is.
For sure. Because Dante's Inferno, while it's not I don't want to say like canon, but it's not like
it was canon to a lot of people.
It still is canon to a lot of people. Yeah. Like most of our views of hell, like in at least the Western world, comes from Dante's Inferno. Like the seven rings of hell is like very, very much how people, at least in like Baptist, the Baptist communities think of like hell. You know. Mm-hmm. Like they do think like some people are punished worse than others, you know. And that's one thing. Like we can get into the movie. It starts off in limbo. Well, actually, it just starts with it's hard to talk about this movie because it is just literally the book. So like I don't want to. I'm not gonna go through this kind of like how Luke was doing with Fellini, like just going through every scene because it's. Maybe I should, but I don't know. But it's literally just the book. So like, I'm just gonna hit on some like cool, like really cool scenes because, just a background, like how Danny and I were talking before the podcast, and like what we were arguing about was what is a movie kind of, I guess. But it's like
getting to abstract, ideas.
Yeah, but to me, it's like Dante's Inferno is a showcase for kind of. It's like I don't want to say a perfect showcase, but if you want like. A really great showcase of how to do an accurate book portrayal and how to like bring hell alive, or at least a version of hell that you've read alive. Like Dante's Inferno is like one of the best movies that's ever done that, I think. So And like,
I definitely agree with you about hell too.
Yeah.
Best portrayal of hell. I get like what we were really kind of arguing about is, to me, I was saying movies are like you were saying. This book is literally just a literal description of the book. Kind of. You know, like it's like the how we started our conversation before is I was saying this even more than a movie. It feels more like a picture book. Like literally, like if someone was opening a picture book and you know like that you might read a paragraph of the book and then you turn the page and it's a huge like thing that pops up. Yeah. And that huge thing that pops up is the next scene that pops up every time after there's a title card.
Yes.
You know, the camera never moves. It's showing one thing. It's showing that one scene that was just described to you by the page.
It moves every once in a while, but
okay, it moves a little bit, but still, it's literally like it's showing you the thing that's just described from the page, right? And one of the best parts, at least what I was saying, what a movie is, not is, but what it can be, you know, what a movie is now anyway. At least to me is. You don't want that. You don't want the words describing what the image is doing, right? Because you want to believe that the image itself is doing all the lifting. But they knew it would be super hard. Like I would I was already having a hard time following along because I haven't read Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, I had.
You know, and so I'm like, I really have to read through this.
It was easy for me to follow along because I have read multiple versions of Dante's Inferno. But I do understand what you're saying, and it is very hard to make a movie like this, especially with people that don't know the book. Yeah. And that was one of my criticisms. Was the long ass title cards? They're the title cards.
Okay,
they're like the inner titles, you know, like those.
It's making you read, like it's making a book part of the movie.
Yes, because the inner titles in this movie they are long,
like and they're important too.
They are very important.
Especially if you have the book.
Yes, you have to read them to like understand what's going on, basically.
And I had trouble kind of articulating what was being said in those title cards too. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like I have like really bad reading comprehension, but
a lot of it's context dependent, right? Like like it's important to know all three of these movies, especially this one, they weren't made for us. You know, they were made for an audience that knew Dante's Inferno already. Yeah. And if you if you had never read it or anything, you at least knew about it. The same way people nowadays at least know about the Bible. You know, they know about Jesus even if you've never been to a church. You know, like just because culturally you know what it is. Yeah. That's how Dante's Inferno was. It was like a very culturally,
especially in Italy for sure.
Yes, and especially in Italy, we're talking about. Oh yeah. I mean, it still is in Italy.
Yes.
But despite me like not knowing like what was going on at all, I was still impressed that it kind of kept me. I was still engaged with the movie because like really just the visuals were that good and
it's not too hard to follow along. At least the basic premise of. These two people being escorted further and further.
As long, like, honestly, all you really need to know about Dante's Inferno is you're fucking journeying through hell. Like you don't really need to know what's going on. You can just extrapolate that like bad things are happening. So.
No, you're right. Especially to get like we've been talking about the images that are really cool, especially towards the later second half. Of
it gets more and more demented. Like it does.
Like, and that is how the book is for sure. Because like as you go further into the rings of hell, obviously Dante knows, or like. That's the whole thing with at least his version of religion. Like hell is like it gets worse for you. The worse you are, it gets worse. Which maybe should be how it is, but who knows?
It's not good.
But we should maybe talk about some of the scenes. Like it starts off in Limbo where we first meet Dante, and then I think this is where we meet like Ovid, Homer's there, and Virgil's there, who is sent with them down to hell. Like Virgil,
Virgil's the one that we kind of meet. Virgil's like, oh, you're the one assigned to send Dante down to hell. Like,
so they're both the ones that go down to hell, and then the first ring of hell is like, it's the cardinal sinners. Which are just like it's the one with all the like people floating in the air, you know, that overlay all the people floating in the air. It kind of, at least to me, it kind of looked like an infinity sign because they were just kind of always floating through like it was just like a river. Kind of, I don't know, like they're always going to be floating there throughout the entire history.
Like a lazy river, like
a lazy river of dead souls.
Oh my god, but.
So this is after they meet Homer and Ovid and everything?
Yeah, this is like the first one. The first, like, it's like, I think it's their introduction basically to hell. is that one, the Cardinal Sinners. But then after that, we have like I'm just gonna like hit some of these quick because they don't, like even in the movie, they don't spend a lot of time on some of these. Like they're literally just walking through a lot of these scenes. Yeah. So like after that, it's like we have the story of Francesca de Rimini. That's the girl that we see like as the people are floating through the air. It goes into the story after that.
I mean, and this is one of the parts where I would say has more of a movie element. Yeah. It has a flashback scene.
Yes, it has multiple flashback scenes.
Yeah, but this is the first one with the Francesca Rimini, where it cuts to a different, like, it's all of a sudden with one group of characters. We meet Francesca Rimini, and then all of a sudden we cut flashback to her, how she basically ended up in hell. You know, like it's so funny though, like how that was like such a scandalous thing. Like they're reading like a story. They're reading some kind of story or something. And
I honestly can't remember.
She kissed the guy that's reading the story, and that's why they're in hell now. So.
Yeah, that's why they're in hell now. That's why they're in the first ring of hell. You know, it's not that bad. Because then after that we meet the Circle of Gluttons, which is just a bunch of fat guys basically, and then we meet Cerberus, which is a 3-headed dog. Which that's just it was just one of the cool scenes. This whole movie is just a masterclass in like set design and just and makeup.
I said in my Letterboxd review, like I'm surprised. Like okay, the movie itself, maybe I can see why it's not talked about as much, but like the sets need to be discussed in the same breath as like Metropolis and Dr. Caligari.
They honestly really do, because we'll get to it. Like I think one of the next scenes is like the people tortured by the eternal rain, and then we meet Pluto for the first time, who is who was watching them and who gets really mad at Dante and Virgil because he doesn't want them in there, obviously. But Pluto, this is the first scene that we see where it is what I was talking about, how I don't think this is something just like film theater or something like that. How I do think this is like a movie, and how only a movie can do something like this, because Pluto is guarding the entrance to like the next ring of hell, and he has to let them through, but he's like this massive being, cool. You know, and it's like they have to walk right by him to get into it. And so it's just like it's just some of the things that you can't do in real life, or like you can't even like depict in a picture book or like something like that as well as something as a movie, you know, like.
No, you're right. Okay, and yes, one of the best parts about at least movies, like generally, is the special effects aspect that you can't do obviously in a theater. What I really was saying that by that is, it's still told like a theater play basically. Yeah. And for the most part, it's still for a theater audience too. Like they go crazy a little bit, but like they're still telling it like a theater audience would be able to understand the way the story is being told. Yeah. You know, and that's what's cool. Like we're even going in order. Like even through the course of three movies, you can see how much movies change.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, like it's almost like insulting to movies in the 1910s to be like, oh, just group everything before the 1930s as silent. You know, silent movies.
It's
like,
definitely insulting.
A silent movie from 1929 is like not like we're saying now is not even the same as a silent movie from 1911.
Like in the silent era is split into 4 different eras, even the 1890s, 1900s, 1910s, 1920s. Yes. You know, like each one of those is definitely different. Like each era is completely different, honestly, because. Like I prefer the 1920s because that's whenever they actually figure out like this is kind of what movies can be.
And also, film's better preserved.
They also are better preserved in the 20s. But.
And we talked about this before, and you kind of mentioned how like movies were an extension of theater. Yeah. And they were like, I mean, with this movie, at least in my opinion, it definitely is. But this is how most people saw movies initially. Yeah. You know, like because theater was the most popular like. Dramatic arts at the time, right? So then they're like, and just movies, we can get to more audiences what people are seeing in a theater, right? Yeah. But like then over time, and even like not even over time, even early, like Méliès, people were noticing that this is not only what movies.
This is not only what they
know, right? You can like even in this movie, you can flash back and cut to a whole different story, and people will follow along with the main arc of what you're going to, and you can just cut right back to the movie, you know, or right to the main story. Even away in theater would be way harder to do. You know, you'd have to change everything with the set.
Well, see, this is the cool thing, and because at least reading and watching Max Linder and learning more about him as a man, it was very interesting seeing how he would do his movies, because his movies actually were a legitimate mixture of theater and like movies, because like it would start with people in the theater, they'd be watching a movie. And then like think Max and Jane go to the theater. Like that's literally like how they would do it. Like they'd start the movie and then they would play out the part with them married. Like it would end like that. Like they'd actually like play it like make like a theater. Yeah. Like for the audience there. So it's like it is definitely a merging of the two. I mean, but it is not the only thing they can do for sure.
Also, another evidence of that is the amount of a lot of like the most acclaimed directors are former theater directors.
Yeah, you know, early on too. Yeah,
and even like Rainer Werner Fassbinder was started in theater, or Ingmar Bergman started in theater. You know,
I mean, and that's the thing. Like these terms never go away, and it's not linear, right? It's not movies were more theater and they became less theater and less theater over time. Yeah, you know, it's like to a certain degree that's true, but to a certain degree it's also movies were theater, and then people started just to branch out more. Yeah, you could realize what you could do, different kinds of stuff, but you could still keep the theater elements if you wanted. You could add more music, sound. Obviously, sound became a huge deal in the 1930s. Like, that's kind of what makes movies, at least in my opinion, that's what makes movies so awesome, is you can combine all these different elements in all your unique ways.
Yeah.
And in the 1911, it was more like they're still learning, like they're starting to get away from it, but it's more like still 85% theater, and they're starting to get away from it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's fair. You can't just all of a sudden be like 100% experimental and no one's gonna watch your movie. No one really know what's going on. You know, like.
Tell that to Méliès. No,
okay, I mean, it was hard. I mean, it was hard to pay attention. Like, it might have been easier for a person back then watching a Méliès movie than for us.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure.
Like, it was harder for me to watch, like, pay attention to exactly what's going on in, like, Méliès. This one is a little more easier, but still, same thing, right? Like we've been saying. Yeah. It was hard to follow along because it's not made for us, you know.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think it was that hard, but I've also read the book. So, but so like after that, I think we see the people that Pluto's watching over. You know, they're rolling around their bags of money. Then we get to like the Stygian swamp. This is whenever they actually journey to hell, to the city of Dis, you know, like the capital of hell, basically. And this is where like their passage is barred, which the Stygian swamp itself is just really cool because that's also just kind of like the you know what I'm talking about. You guys remember what this is? Their journey across the swamp.
They have to call out. They have to call for some guy to.
They have to call for the ferry, basically.
The ferry.
So like the ferry ride across to the city is honestly pretty cool because like that entire thing is just a set, and it's just. I don't know. I just thought it was pretty impressive.
No, this is where the sets, at least in my opinion, start to get really good too.
Because we're actually getting to hell right now. So, so his interest is blocked. We get to like the heretics burning in pits of fire with their feet up, like burial places of popes. See, this is another thing. Well, okay, I'll get to it after this next scene because this next scene is one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. But the suicide forest, one of the first, like this is one of the things like it's definitely a very theater thing. Where it's like just the makeup in general in the sets because the people being literally hung in those trees and like formed into them, like you can't really tell like they're even just people, you know. They just look like a tree at that point.
And we see like some birds,
crows or something.
No, because there's some human bird creature that we get introduced. Later in the movie they tell us what they were. But they're also like a different thing that.
Oh, harpies,
harpies.
The harpies,
There are also some that did something wrong and they got turned into something.
Yeah. No, because the harpies
are creepy as
they are, dude. Because the harpies come and start pecking at the survivors, which is. See, this is one thing about Dante's Inferno, the book, that makes it so amazing is because you are using your imagination to fill in the thing, like the thing, which is a lot of times better than what you can see on screen. I mean, but the one thing that's great about Dante's Inferno is I do think they made it extremely well. I think the imagery in the movies is like done how I would picture it in my mind. You know, like at least to me personally. I don't know, like if I hear sinners like formed into a tree with harpies pecking at them, like this is kind of what I would think of, you know. And it might like the what they have here is actually maybe more deranged than what I had in mind, you know, because it's a very deranged scene, honestly.
Honestly, the more we talk about, I kind of want a newer director to try to adapt this, but like an actual good one.
An actual good one.
Like not like a studio filmmaker, but like
You don't want Taika Waititi's Dante's Inferno?
Oh god, we're gonna get like 50 quick beat jokes, you know, along with the like.
I mean, oh god.
Like we're gonna get like one of the rolling people, like one character's gonna be like shit talking them, and be like, oh, he's right behind me, isn't he?
He's right behind me.
They look at the camera. Oh, did that just happen?
Oh my god. Right, let's
we're just shitting on Taika Waititi.
I like Taika Waititi.
We do too.
But, okay, to get back to the movie though, because this scene also this is probably my favorite scene in the movie too, with the suicide forest.
Yeah.
Because it also tells us it has another flashback scene.
Yeah.
With one of the guys why he ended up killing himself. And it's kind of like it's more about just the topic of hell and how fucked up it is to some degree, at least in my opinion. But because the way they say how he ended up in suicide forest, like you completely understand when they go to the flashback scene. You're like almost sympathizing with him.
Yes,
because they say like his whole family gets killed and his eyes get blinded, and then he decides to commit suicide after he looks at the sun and he sees.
Yeah, no, he was accused of treason or something. His entire family was killed. His eyes were poked out, and then he.
No, they say he literally had despair after he looked up at the sun and couldn't see it.
Yeah, because he said he opened his eyes and to try to see the light of the sun, he couldn't see anything, and so he bashed his head in.
And then he ends up in hell. Like, and then he ends up in hell. It's
a depressing. This is what I was wanting to get to before I got to the Suicide Forest because I wanted to just get to that scene because it was my favorite. But the depiction of sinners, just everyone basically, and how fucked up it is that all these people end up in hell, I think this is one thing that movies can also do, but also that the director I think had in mind of like showing how these people probably don't even belong here, you know, like like at least half of them, like but one of the other things that I like is like we see popes in here, we see clergymen, we see priests, and we see Muhammad, which is kind of unfortunate how fucked up they treated him in this movie, but as the only Muslim character in here, but we'll get to that later.
No, but your point about that is it's kind of like I still like the movie, but it's maybe this genre or just, I mean, I've studied a decent amount about religion, and it's one of my least favorite parts about religion is how much, especially Christianity, because it's what I know the most about, but how much people spend thinking or imagining about hell. You know, like that's what religion is. It's like, oh, I can't wait to like, and it's kind of why I don't like this, like the topic of this book too, because I just don't like. It's my least favorite part about studying religions, you know, thinking about all the people that are going to suffer in hell or whatever, you know, if you did believe in that. But like, people almost enjoy it. And obviously this book is proof of that, you know, people...
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's a contrast, right? People hate it, right? It's a horror, but, I mean, that's what the horror genre is, right? It's like, you're fascinated by the disgustingness of it, right?
Yes, you want... It's how humans, we're innately curious, you know? We want to see what our minds can
But I'm saying even more than curious, like, it's almost enjoying. Right? Yeah. Or it is enjoyable, especially with hell. A lot of religious people love thinking about all the people that disagree, you know, that are wrong about religion. They love thinking about how they're going to suffer in hell. And that, you know, like, obviously this has been true throughout ancient times, right? And that's kind of what I don't like, at least by the themes of the book, right? It's like what you're saying. And maybe the director is pointing that out in terms of, like...
I do think the director is pointing. I think he's, at least with the story part, with the flashbacks, because every flashback we see, we're like, these people don't belong here, you know? Like, these people are just victims of circumstance, you know?
Or just, this is just human behavior.
That too.
Like, they're being punished for human behavior.
Yeah, for literally just behaving like a human. Which maybe that's another thing, like
I don't know. Either way, even if the director is not commenting on that, like it does seem like that with the flashbacks where they are. But at the same time, even if he's not, like I got that feeling.
We got
that. That guy should not, like that guy did not feel like he should be in hell. You know. You know, like especially the layer he's at, like at least put him
at least put him in the first ring, or maybe limbo, like
it says like he's floating in the wind hopelessly, like. Well, what Homer's doing, they're all just like walking around.
Yeah, they're all just walking around talking. You know? So after that, we see blasphemous trapped in circle in like circles where it rains fire, but after that was whenever like the poets descend on the dragon for the first time. This is one of the scenes where I was talking about. I don't think it's actually the camera moving; it's probably just the background moving. But like the dragon itself looks like it's floating down, you know. Yeah. The dragon looks pretty cool. It doesn't look super convincing, but it looks pretty cool.
I mean, I'm not really like harping them on that, you know.
No, exactly.
You don't get points deducted for that.
It's a good shot. It's a great shot, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So after this, we have another one, like kind of like a cooler set with the River of Filth, with just like all the people bathing like kind of the River of Filth.
Oh yeah,
just like
At
first, I was like, this doesn't look filthy, but the more you watch it, the water itself doesn't look like water, obviously. Because, like, I don't know what they made, like, how they made that look the way it did, but it looks blacker than it should, like, for a black and white movie. I don't know. At least to me, it kind of did. But...
It could have been lighting, probably. I think
maybe. Yeah.
I think that's how they probably did
it. We'll get to another lighting. We'll get to another lighting scene in Dante's Inferno. That's really fucking good, But like after that, we see the Summonists, which are the people who sold like these are other people that actually deserve to be probably in like further rings of hell. But like the peoples that sold like church goods for profit, like basically the people Jesus hated. But but like I think this is where Dante, where it's like Dante like placates that demon with the pitchfork that's holding that guy under the water. You guys remember that scene?
He helps them.
Yeah, he basically calms the demon down. No, but this is kind of what I want. The demons in this movie, this is what I was getting to, how I think Dante's Inferno was kind of influential. Because the demons themselves, at least the way they look, feels extremely influential to the rest of, like, to at least, like I've seen, like, lay vampires, you know, like they look, I don't know, it kind of looks at least the same a little bit. I don't know.
I've seen Revenge.
It sort of counts. But you know what I'm talking about then. Because the demons, or like at least the costumes they wear kind of look very similar.
I don't know if they showed up in Arm of That.
Oh, okay. To be honest. I don't know. But I don't know. I just felt like the demons themselves just felt like very influential. But like you said, I don't know if Dante's Inferno was influential or not, because obviously it wasn't that influential if no one talks about it now. Yeah. But I don't know.
It might have been. See, that's the thing. You never know. It might have been indirectly influential. Like it was influential on the things that were influential.
Which I still think that makes it influential. Yeah, it's definitely still influential.
And either way, it more important, at least for us, for our purposes, it's more important that at least it still holds up to us. You know, we're watching it because we're watching it as a movie. You know, and it still works for us. That's what at least I like about it. Like the demons, especially because the demons in Merry Frolics of Satan, you know, it's more for comedy. Like you were saying. Oh yeah. This one is definitely. It's like they're actually scary. You know?
Yes, they're definitely supposed to be scary, and they are. They look good.
Yeah, they do.
Because after that scene is the scene where like I think Wormwood summons like 10 demons to escort them to the next level, but then like something happens. I think a sinner jumps into the river, or they can't find him, and so they get mad, and then they chase the poets to the next one instead of like escorting them. They decide to like chase them because they're mad, and then they can't follow them to the next level. But
because who's that? Maybe this is in between what you're saying, but like that guy that we watched like escape from the demons.
Yeah, that's what I was just talking about. Yeah, he jumped in the river, and then he jumped in the river to escape, and they can't find him because this is where we see like the demon fly over the river too. It was that one really cool scene.
So we're talking about the same scene.
Yeah, no, we're talking about the same scene. But then that chase leads to another one of kind of my favorite images, where like the hypocrites with their white cloaks that look they're lead cloaks, you know, but they look like those white cloaks, and it has Pontius Pilate nailed to the ground there.
Oh yeah. The hypocrites, I like that. Yeah, Caiaphas.
Caiaphas. Yeah, I was assuming that was
priest.
Pilate, but I don't know.
That's the priest that basically the head priest that arrested Jesus.
Okay, so I thought they were talking. I thought that was like maybe like the Italian name for Pilate or something, but because that's who I was thinking. But
you're close.
I was in the right.
But you did skip one of my favorite quotes in the movie that kind of describes it. It's like right before they meet the hypocrites. It says on the screen anyway, power which gives them control over their own circle will not allow them to leave it. And it's like talking about the demons, like they can't even go to separate circles.
Yeah.
Like when they're chasing them.
Yeah, I didn't get the quote. I'm glad that you got the quote because that is a good quote. But I did mention that they at least weren't able to follow them.
Yeah, they weren't able to follow. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have the power.
Yeah, but like the demons have so much power, but you know they can't leave hell basically. Right?
Yeah. Like, they can't even leave their own ring of hell.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Without permission, But
yeah, the hypocrites. Yeah,
no, the hypocrites. They're pretty far down. They are pretty far down. But I just like the scene in general because it looks really cool. Because you just have an entire I don't know how many extras they have, but that line is pretty big. Yeah. Like it reaches the entirety of because they're kind of for anyone listening, they're kind of like around a lake almost. And like all the hypocrites stretch around basically the entire lake, or like the lake edge. So I mean, there were a lot of extras in that one, which is not just a really cool scene, just a really cool thing about silent movies in general. But after that, we come to another one of the the ones where I'm kind of talking about how only a movie can do this, and this is a very George Méliès scene also, where it's like the robbers with the serpents biting them. But this is where we see three of the sinners get changed into different creatures.
Yeah, it says the grafters and faithless turn into loathsome animals.
Loathsome animals. Yeah.
No, this is one of the Méliès thing. Like, this is what movies can do. You know, we can.
This is what movies can do
into an animal.
Just by cutting.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know what the thing is that's climbing up there. It looks like a fucking alligator. It's just like a tiny ass little thing. It looks kind of funny, honestly, in a movie that's supposed to look really scary. But
we'll forgive it.
We'll forgive it for sure. So we'll just hit some more bullet points. Fraudulent counselors and evil advisors wrapped in flaming garments, sowers of discord and promoters of dissension. This is like one of the next main scenes that I love, because this is where Muhammad shows up. This is this is the scene where they use that black background to make it look like people have their severed limbs and the severed head, because specifically the one I'm thinking of is at least watching it, I could tell they were wearing black suits over their obviously they were wearing suits and gloves over their maimed appendages, but it's the one with the head. The guy walks out, he's holding his head like this, but you can tell the actor is wearing a black mask, something over his head, because they're doing this all with lighting. This isn't It's not even like cutting or anything, like editing. It's just all lighting. Yeah. It's all lighting. It's I really liked it. I do think it's unfortunate that Muhammad's the one that has his guts hanging out, and like no one else in this movie is kind of like. Although I guess Caiaphas was like nailed to the ground and shit, so I don't know. He had it rough too.
Yeah. No, but they're definitely trying to make a point there, you know.
Yes, and that's why it kind of felt like a little weird, but no, like that black background scene is like one of my favorites in the movie because it kind of just showcases kind of what movies can do, or at least what lighting can do.
No, it's a great cinematic shot.
Yeah, it's great cinematic shot.
Holds the head up and everything.
Yeah. Oh, we're almost at the end. No. Forgers, falsifiers, alchemists, counterfeiters, change to lepers.
Sounds like hell.
Sounds like hell. And then this is the next one where I was talking about like what movies can do, kind of, you know, like the three giants. We have those three giants: Nimrod, Nimrod, Ephialtes, and Antios.
How do you think they did that? It has
to just be perception.
Projection or perception? Okay, yeah.
Like it has to just be perception, but I honestly don't know because like it also like they had to have like cut out at least the giant that lowers them to the next level. They had to at least like cut Virgil and Dante into his hand as he's lowering them, you know. Yeah. So like that was part of it, but it's like at least whenever they're walking on the set with like in between the giants, it kind of looks like a perception. Like it doesn't really look like they're doing anything crazy there. Yeah. I don't know though. It's a really good scene.
Yeah, honestly, for all these like a lot of silent movies, I just wish I could be like on set and just see how they do some techniques.
See how they're doing it.
Just even more than like movies after it, because they had to like literally it was like a magic trick basically. Like what they had to do.
Yes, and then so the next is whenever we're actually like basically at the end, because this is the last ring of hell. It's the freezing lake basically, you know, where we see Satan for the first time, because they walk down the freezing lake. You can see Satan in the background, but they don't even mention him at all. I kind of like that. I kind of like that at first because you just see the devil in the background.
It's a good shot too.
It's a great shot. You just see the devil in the background. They just are talking to the people in the ice as the devil's in the background. You know, like this giant devil literally eating people in the background. He sees some guy that he's like really pissed at. He's like, "Fuck you!"
It's a fun. I literally wrote LOL in this because he literally it's one. I guess it's a guy he used to know that was a hypocrite, a traitor.
Yeah.
And he goes and just plucks his hair out of his head.
Yeah.
Just to add insult to injury, you know. Like,
dude, I was like, this dude's so petty that he can't even notice that the fucking Satan's right behind him. But okay. No, but then we finally get to actually even before that we get a flashback. Yeah, I forgot about that. I'm glad I wrote that down. But Count Ugolino gnawing on the skull of Archbishop Ruggieri.
It's like because it's like an explanation of why he's doing this.
Yes, and this is another one of the scenes where I really because this is one where they just this shit definitely happened a lot for sure, and like just in the church's history.
Like what?
Well, just like. If you're like a priest like this guy was, like or like the archbishop dude, like you can literally just kill people and not face anything.
Exactly.
Because that's literally what he does. You just like lock him up there, leave him.
Yeah.
And that's why he's gnawing on his head, because he's like, I want to eat you for the rest of eternity because you fucked me over, like literally. But
it's another one of those things, like you're saying, the director was using his flashbacks, you know, on purpose.
Like,
to almost subvert the being like
subverting hell.
Yes,
kind of, you know.
See, that's the thing. I don't know if they meant to do it, but it does feel like that. It does.
Or maybe not even like subverting hell might not be the right word, because the people still are in hell suffering. But it's like subverting like the expectations of who would be in hell. You know?
Or like their reasons are not only purely negative.
Yes.
You know, like
they're
more just human reasons. Like
it's like well, first I don't even know why the Count's in there, because he just died unfortunately. Like he didn't even commit suicide. He's just down there. He's probably just down there just to be just to gnaw on him probably. But I don't know. He definitely did do. I don't want to say he definitely did this to subvert that expectation, but it does feel like it for sure. It or maybe that's just what the author had in mind with Dante's Inferno in general. I don't know. But then we finally get to Satan.
Or Lucifer, or Lucifer. They're actually more accurate.
Yeah, they are. They are accurate. It's Lucifer. Yeah. But he apparently has 3 mouths. It looks like one to me. But he's chewing on the man. And honestly, this is another scene where he just looks bigger than life. You know, he looks 30 feet tall. Yeah. Fucking huge. I don't know how
they're
they
doing
did
something weird with. They must be filming 2 shots at once, and
I think they are
them because like the lower half has a small body being chewed. And
because he's supposed to have 3 mouths, and it looks like his mouth looks weird. It doesn't look like he has 3.
It just looks like a big mouth.
It does. It looks weird, but I mean, it just adds to like the creepiness factor though of the movie in general, because this is what they wanted to end the movie on. It's kind of like the shot of like the big bad, like
makes sense. Yeah. Makes sense. And that's basically I mean, we get a quick shot of the Dante's monument.
No, yeah, we get a shot of them journeying out of the underground. They leave hell, behold the stars finally, which is it's a good scene. Yeah. It's a good shot, and then we see the statue of Dante.
Yeah, and it just
ends. Ends. Why did Dante even go to hell in the first place?
I think he was just sent there on a mission to like journey through hell, but I honestly don't remember. Okay. Let me look it up.
Just wanted to go through.
I mean, in the movie itself, they say because remember the first scene is him like in a forest, like wandering around almost, and they say he sees the hill of salvation or something. And then
Dante descends into hell to learn to love again by the most extreme examples of misdirected love, and also through his relationship with Virgil, apparently. But.
I was thinking about.
That's what makes that quote you said.
It's also an allegory. Well, at least the main one on Wikipedia is that it's an allegory of the journey of the soul towards God, which it definitely probably could be. But
honestly,
that's a view.
Watching it makes me kind of want to read the book. Honestly,
it's a really good book, dude. Honestly,
is it long or?
Nah, not too bad.
Okay.
It's like, well, I have one that's like a picture book, and it's really cool. But
okay, maybe Dave was right.
Well, I mean, Dante's Inferno. The cool thing about Dante's Inferno is the illustrations made with Dante's Inferno, because like that's the best part about it is like putting what this man wrote, or like putting the interpretations of like how this man saw hell in his head onto paper, like your own interpretation of what it looks like. That is. Well, it's kind of what you're talking about. Like, why do we like this? I don't know. Like, we don't even know why we like it. We just want to see you. You kind of just want to see it,
No, I mean, there's probably a lot of psychological reasons why people are interested in hell.
Yeah, probably.
One of them is just we're interested, like you said, we're almost curious about the negative too, just as much as the positive. So.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads to we should just go into the next one.
Yeah. Häxan. Let's go into Häxan.
Because that kind of just leads the same thing with witches, and I think this we'll talk about throughout the movie, but at least in my opinion, I think the director does realize how much all these people that were accusing women of witches almost just like wanted to be around women, love like treating women terribly, like
it's the abuse of power.
Yes, abuse of power, using this excuse of religion, or like in this case hell, the previous case hell, this one witches, right? But who knows? Maybe they were witches now.
Who knows? Maybe they were witches.
What do you guys? Did you guys like the movie too?
I definitely liked
1922, but
no, I liked how like documentary it was like to start, and then, like it kind of it felt like it was just giving me a tour of like this like subject matter basically.
Yes, like, it is. Yeah.
It starts like a video essay, and it's just basically like almost documentary.
Yeah, especially the beginning of it. Like it starts like straight documentary almost.
Yes.
Like, these are what witches are. This is their history.
It's literally just showing you diagrams and like pictures from books of like how, and it does it a lot in the movie for sure.
Yeah.
But no, I love that part about it. Not the Häxan is one of my favorite like silent movies in general, honestly.
Okay.
And one of my favorite horror movies, but it's just really good because it does begin with like an explanation of witches.
Yeah.
Part 1 explanation of witches and like why we would even believe in witches. And I think I actually did write down like his exact quote or something, but he said is like how when confronted with like the unexplainable, it's human nature to believe it's supernatural. At least back then, especially whenever we didn't have anything to like explain it. It has to be supernatural. And then it goes just like how the medieval man pictured the world, and like how it was different from how it actually is.
Actually, one of the coolest shots in the movie is they show how the ancient Egyptians picture the world.
Yeah.
And it's the cool shots with the stars. And
the rotating stars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. No, this is it's a great looking movie too, but it does have a lot like the movie is kind of more about the ideas though, like you were saying, because it starts off almost like straight documentary, like this is how people became to believe in witches.
Yeah.
But then it almost like takes a turn and it starts like filming the witches as like almost a movie. While still being documentary, it starts filming them more like actual movie scenes.
Yes.
Like it's like the first beginning of it is like kind of like demythologizing it, you know, like breaking it down. But then all of a sudden it gets you like, at least in a movie context, it gets you to believe why people believe in witches to some degree. You know, like it opens with what's her name? I forgot her, Karna, I think.
Yeah, Karna.
The witch.
Yeah.
And like she looks like a witch. Like if they just opened with that movie, you'd be like, oh, I'm bought in, she's a witch.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm bought in, she's a witch.
Yeah, but like it starts with, this is why witches weren't real. You know, this is why people believed them and stuff. So it's like starting like, so witches are dumb, don't believe in them, and then it shows that shot, and you're like, oh, I believe in a witch. You know,
she's definitely a witch.
You know, like they're coming to get potions.
If I saw that back in the day, I would probably believe too. Like,
you know, like.
If I saw a woman like that now, I might think she's a little bit witchy, but
she's selling a potion, and you're like, oh, that potion's gonna work because she's definitely a witch, you know.
Yeah, because you jumped to I think chapter 2 with Karna already, because chapter 1 is just like, or part 1 or whatever. It's just literally, and I wrote down how I loved how you said how it is just a.
Yeah, I love how he was using like the stake to point. Like,
I love that.
Literally just pointing at the illustrations, trying to show you how it is. I do love that, but whenever it gets to chapter 2 and the witches, it does start. You know, like the movie kind of starts, but it opens up with them on the witches' Sabbath feast. You know, getting the body of the dead priest, not dead priest, the dead thief that was hanging. It shows them. We're preparing the feast with like dead bodies, toes. I think there's even a dead baby in there at one point. But
because they do explain that during the intro, which is the intro is that helpful too.
It's very helpful.
Because like when he references the movie, like they're eating, you know, they're cooking dead bodies. They talk about it in the intro, like witches believed in that, you know, like But yeah, that's one example of it. But then so after that,
because there's there's the girl that comes in for the love potions, like you were talking about. But then I think it cuts to the two grave diggers and stuff, you know.
Oh yeah.
Like who stole a woman's body, cut it open, like hoping to like cure diseases and stuff like that. But then they get accused of being witches because they dug up a dead body, you know, like pretty sus stuff, you know. But but they were doing it for a reason. This is also.
I mean, I think he's trying to say those were the early scientists.
They are. No, that is how science progresses. Like no one wants to. No, it sounds terrible, but like. No one wants to admit that like science progressed through barbaric fashions almost, you know, like grafting, especially like, you know, like grafting on new limbs or grafting or just grafting, like stuff like that.
The body especially.
Like stuff like that came about specifically because scientists were experimenting on animals, like grafting on new heads to other animals and stuff like that. It's like this is some weird, like real fucked up shit. But they like. But that's how we advance.
But they're right. To study a body, you have to dissect.
You have to do it. It's messed up. But like this is why we have cures to diseases now. That's why because of people like this. For sure.
What this movie's kind of about is it's really not messed up. But like like he's saying like
if it was legal, if they had like a way to do it
in a supernatural way,
yes,
it's fucked up, right? Like if you view it in almost a certain context, it's fucked up.
It's fucked up just because you're taking a person's body, that didn't agree to it.
Yeah, that is true. It's more like he's saying like, look, all the people thought they were witches just because they're trying to explain the serious, you know, or the unexplainable, right?
Yes. No, because after that they get accused of being witches. Cuts to witches forcing a guy to keep his mouth open for eternity, which was the scene just outside of the house, which was a funny scene. But it cuts to that after that is like people's belief in the devil during the Middle Ages was so strong because that he became real. You know, like it's that thing of like, is he actually real or is he just, or like what is real? Like if he's real to this many people, is he real? Like probably is, you know? At least to them. If he's real to them, it's kind of like what we were saying with movie. Like if it's, or like with dreams, like if it's real to you, like it's like if your
if you say a dream is real to you, no one can say that's not true.
Yeah.
You know, think about it. If someone has a dream, like a dream so influential, it changes how they live the rest of their life. You know, or if it like literally makes them change their job or change their, you know, relationship with someone. That dream was real. You know, even more than just something they saw every day on the street that didn't do anything to them. Yeah. Right? Because even if that dream itself was fake, it was real in a certain sense. It's been in their life. It's going to be in their life. You know, and that's true with the devil too. Like, it's around what we're talking about right now. But they say something like the devil is everywhere. It takes all shapes and forms. Yeah. You know, that's kind of what we're talking about, right? Like the devil is. If a lot of people in a society believe in the devil, he's going to show up, you know. Like,
at some point, he's going to show up whether he's actually real or not. You know?
I mean, that's why people call people the devil. Like,
Plus, And that's true. Like, what do you mean by the devil? A lot of people just the devil is ultimate evil, right, or something really evil. So, and even people that don't believe in religion will still say there's evil stuff that exists.
Yes,
you know,
for
so.
Sure.
That's just another word for the devil for a lot
Well,
of people.
some people might not even believe in God, but they believe in like a devil, you know?
Yeah,
like,
which is also contradictory to me, and like that's a different subject. But like people, you know, they don't believe in God until like someone evil dies, and they're like, oh, I can't wait to see this guy burning in hell or something. It's like, oh, that's when you only believe in religion, you know?
Yeah.
I kind of respect the hating though. Honestly,
I respect the hating, but they like it's like people that we're getting off topic, but it's like people that loves is being like holier than thou about religion, being like, oh, you know, I'm past that. But then the second someone evil dies, it's like, oh, they're like saying the same stuff like Christians say about, you know, sinners. You know, like they're using the same arguments basically. Like, like if once again we're off topic, but if you don't believe in religion and if you don't believe in hell, then that person that's really evil died just like the rest of us. You know, they have the same kind of peace or not peace or just.
They're just dead.
It's not like only the evil people go to hell and everyone else is just, you know, a scientific body that dies. But that's only if you believe in only material. But okay, we'll go back to the movie.
I mean, Luke derailed us enough, don't you?
We'll blame Luke.
Luke's like, hey, don't blame this on me. Okay. No, well, that basically ends chapter 2. I mean, we get the devil getting that woman to accompany him on his journey with their spirits leaving their bodies, and we get those cool overlays, and then we get the really cool scene of the devil like sprinkling money on that girl as she sleeps. And that's how chapter 2 that's how chapter 2 actually ends. I don't know what he's trying to say with that, but like the money all disappearing as she wakes up. Maybe that's what he's trying to say about it, but I don't know. But then chapter 3 starts, and this one can best be described as just like the sketches of the punishments of witches, you know,
by religious authority.
Yes, by religious authority. Because like he illustrates a witch trial in this chapter, I'm pretty sure. Because it starts with the doctor diagnosing a sick man with a bad case of being affected by witchcraft because he used lead. Like I don't know. Well, it's like this is maybe another thing he's talking about with like the two people that are actually doing real science are the ones accused of witchcraft, but then you have this guy literally just like have molten lead, pours it in water, looks at it, and goes like, oh yeah, he's a witch. He's affected by witchcraft. You know, like yeah, that's better. That must be better than like these guys digging up a body trying to figure out what's actually wrong. You know, but
no, I mean that's the thing. Like, and I think he's trying to say this because it happens a few times when they do the witch trials to prove they're a witch.
Yeah,
like a lot of their science, quote unquote science, was just to prove that witches existed.
Yes,
you know, they were trying to find witches. Yes, you know, like.
Yeah, because I think this is whenever we see Maria the Weaver for the first time, who is the witch that's like accused that they accuse of affecting the young man that's sick and dead. Because this is the woman that walks in and says, "Can I have a bowl of soup?" And the girl gives her a bowl of soup, and then she starts scarfing that shit down. She scarfs that down, and I mean, if I saw this lady scarfing that down and how he filmed her. I would have been like, yeah, that's a witch. because she looks like a witch. You know? Like, she literally has the soup just pouring down her face, and it's like black.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what kind of... She's definitely a witch. Because after that, the sister talks to the Inquisition, you know, and they come in here. They actually make her swear on the cross that they're not sworn enemies, which if you... I guess to some people that would matter. I guess to her it probably mattered too. But like to someone that just wants someone dead, if they are asked to swear on the cross that they aren't sworn enemies, they're going to swear on the cross and say they aren't sworn enemies, even if they are. Like they don't care. Like at that point, if you just want someone dead, they don't care. It's one of the things that usually, you know, like they just want to prove witches. Yes, it's an excuse to prove witches. So chapter 4 is the actual beginning of the trial of Maria.
I mean, just before that, like, just to go off, because I forgot to mention it a little earlier, but in terms of, this is one of the scenes where, like, it kind of cuts back to the documentary where it shows, like, a picture of, like, how they used to tie up witches and stuff. Yeah. And, like, this is where it made me think of, like, a lot of these men were just doing, and I think he's trying to point it out, a lot of these men were doing this just so they could basically abuse women like this. Yeah. You know, have an excuse to do that.
Well, I mean, this is a whole through line in the whole movie, and we'll get to it later on in later scenes too. But like sexual repression is a massive like point in this movie, and like how religion itself is just like a master at sexually repressing these people and making them not like making them do this, but like it comes out in certain ways. You know, like if you repress something like that for so long, it comes out in ways that weren't intended, obviously, and maybe they didn't intend it like that. But like, we'll definitely get to that in the later chapters. But chapter 4 starts. They're trying to persuade Maria to say she's a witch, because this is always how it starts. Because if she denies the charge, they're going to use mental torture. And if mental torture doesn't work, they're going to use physical torture.
It seems dumb to us now, like, if you torture someone, obviously they're going to confess. But I mean, the American military was using torture very recently. It's been torture is something that's been used for confessions for a long ass time.
One of the best scenes in anything that shows that is in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the comedy show where freaking Frank is waterboarding Dee, and she's like, and then the gang walks in, and they're like, "Oh, you're waterboarding Dee? Okay, well, what'd she do?" And he's like, she's like, "Oh, she didn't do anything, but I got her to confess to things she never did." Like, it's literally like that is what torture is.
And that's what they're doing here.
Yes, that's what the
scene is. Literally,
the first movie, I thought it was the card counter, but I mean that's kind of.
That movie is literally directly about the America's version of that.
Also, the way he films that scene. Anyway, Häxan,
well, because first off, you're getting mentally tortured. Like, that's the first step, because they don't want to physically torture you if they can avoid it, apparently. But they probably do. But
that's the thing.
But they want to start with mental torture just because they don't want to at least be looked on like that. But then if that doesn't work, they're going to take you to the physical torture chamber, and it's like, and she does deny the charge, obviously, because she's just an old lady. She's not a witch. And so they take her in the torture chamber backwards, so she can't bewitch the judge. And then this is literally the quote. It says, "Let her suffering begin, so that we may end the harshness of her heart." And it's just like, this is the rationalization these people were trying to do, like.
And some of I don't know if this reminded you of this, but some of these scenes, especially with her trial, remind me of Passion of Joan of Arc. Like,
definitely,
the way with the 3 judges are like almost sitting, like 2 at the bottom, 1 at the top, and then it cuts back and forth to their faces, like close-ups.
Very close-ups.
Exactly.
Too. Yeah, and well, even right after that, like I actually wrote down this conversation, I guess, but because she says, "Oh, you learned men, how do you expect me to confess to something that isn't true?" And then the first torture starts, and it's the tightening of the harness, and I think they actually show a description or like an illustration of this too, where which I'm glad they did, because you obviously don't want to see someone actually getting tightened with this thing. But it's the people. I think they had 4 people pulling on ropes to tighten the harness, basically. And it's just like.
But it's a good example of this movie is still trying to like we just talked about Fellini, recently, in terms of always reminding you that it's a movie. Even if you get sucked into the magic for a moment, it's like it brings you back to a movie, right? Like the documentary almost does that in this movie, right? Like every once in a while, it inserts like, and this is why it happened. This is like an old ass history book. It's a book. Like, this is actually what happened. Like it's not because it does suck you in. Like you get sucked into a lot of the witch scenes, especially like movies are best at doing. They suck you in right away almost. Like it's almost too easy to believe them sometimes when you're watching it.
And that is one thing like we didn't mention with Dante's Inferno or this one, but the rumors, especially with Häxan, are people believe this was real, and it's very easy to see why, because it's filmed extremely well. And if you didn't have the documentary elements, I mean, maybe the documentary elements even add into people thinking it was real almost, but I don't know.
That's it's a good sign that the movie is made well, but also I don't know if it is, because the director is almost trying not to do that. He's trying to demythologize.
He is trying to
but maybe he's getting sucked into the power movies too.
It's hard not to. Well, after that, she does, because the tightening of the harnesses, they tightened it until they tell the truth in quotation marks.
When she starts
confessing. And then she confessed to them that she bore Satan's son, and she had the witch's ointment spread on her, and this leads to like a ton of great scenes, just like of like silhouette witches and stuff. I don't know.
There's
because I said the silhouette shots, witches flying in the background, portrayal of the witch's Sabbath is really cool. Was this
the episode where he pointed out how like there was a thing where a girl kissed the Satan's butt or whatever?
That comes later, but they actually, this might be the first scene, but they actually portray that later too. But this is the one where they actually are talking about like the witch's Sabbath. This is where they show that like unchristened baby that's bleeding just like above the chamber pot, like the cauldron,
That Karna's about to cook.
Actually,
this is around this scene.
It's around.
It's like because
I mean we are on chapter 5 almost, so definitely we're close to it.
Because it is while she's describing. It's literally while she's giving the descriptions of what she's actually seeing.
She
and talks about everyone kissing the devil's blood, basically.
But then I think later on they actually showed that scene.
Okay.
But she definitely does mention that part. smart. But then I love how after she says all this, it cuts back to the learned men laughing in her face.
Oh yeah.
They don't believe her. They're still gonna kill her though because she's a witch. But but they don't even believe her. Like
that's a good point. Yeah. Because you would think, like, you think they're gonna be like horrified, of what she's saying and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, almost they're laughing at like the craziness of
exactly.
Of the confessions they're
getting. Yeah, they're like really, like, this is what they do. Because she starts naming names and all that. But then chapter 4 ends, chapter 5 begins, and this is how the opening is. So begins the endless cycle of the witchcraft era. And it's literally just showing like what happens if you oppose being a witch, basically. It
literally says if you don't give up a witch, you must be a witch yourself.
Yeah. If you oppose the capture of a witch, you must be a witch yourself. And then in the era of witchcraft, it is not good to be old and decrepit, but it's also not good to be young and pretty either. It literally has that quote in there because this is where he really what is the director's name? I think it's Erickson or something maybe.
Some Erickson.
Yeah, but this is like where it starts. Christensen. Yeah, Benjamin Christensen. Because this is where the director really starts to get into the parts where I like the most of talking about just how the religious institutions use this basically to control either control women to do what they want or kill them. So like
preserve power basically.
Yeah, to preserve their power, and yeah, because it's got the priest getting whipped with his face overlaid. This is that priest, the priest that like is thinking about that woman, about one of those pretty girls.
Yeah.
No, he's thinking about a pretty girl that he wants to see.
Yes.
And then he tells he tells his other priest about it, and then he gets whipped about it. And the cool thing about it is he overlays his face as he's getting whipped, like he's enjoying it. This is where the sexual repression stuff I was talking about really starts to come to the forefront, because like he is thinking about this girl that he wants to have sex with. He knows he can't be thinking like that because he's a priest. So he tells the guy because he wants to be whipped, and he likes to be whipped. Yeah. And whenever the priest stops whipping him, he's like, "Why'd you stop?" He literally says that, and I was like, "Oh God." But I mean, that's what stuff like this does to you, and that's why I like him doing it, because I think even after he was whipped, it cuts back to the same priest like sitting there, and then it cuts to like an overlay of the woman coming next to him, like putting his arm up or putting her hand on him. And him saying, "My arm still burns where she touched me,"
And then, because honestly, like it's like, what happens right after this is where, after they whip him, they still want to find a reason to blame her.
Yeah.
So that's when they accuse her of being a witch. Because if she's appearing in a holy man's dream, she must be a witch.
Yeah. Yeah, because after that we see the young woman being tortured. Yeah. This is the next witch trial, I guess, kind of. Yeah. But like she's being tortured.
But see that theme alone even applies today still, right? Where people blame women for just men's basically can't control their own desires.
Can't control their own desires. Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
But see, that's what this movie does a really good job of, like especially as it goes along. Like it first makes you think like, oh, see, witches are a crazy thing from the 1600s. Yeah. Like this is the modern day. No one's gonna believe in that. Yeah. But then by the end of the movie, and we'll get to it towards the end. Get that. I love it. He correlates it to like how could the same human race could still how they could believe in witches, because basically we still do today.
Yes,
in our own ways. Yes. In our own ways. We're not calling them witches, but we still put women in different positions just because they don't act according to
they're acting like they're supposed to.
Yes, the societal norm is. Yeah. Right? And that's what's so good. This is a movie, like even this movie is old to us now, right? It's like 1922.
It's 100 years old.
But they're talking about everything as modern compared to ancient or traditional, right?
Yeah.
And it still feels modern in some ways for us. A lot of ways, right?
Yes.
A lot of the and we'll get to the end because that's honestly where it puts the whole movie together to me anyway.
Yeah, we'll definitely continue with this witch trial, or like this one, because this specifically shows the manipulation of the church and how they manipulate you to tell something condemning, because like the guy's like opens up the door, says, "I'll let you go if you just tell me how witches call thunder with water." Because like she doesn't believe him. Obviously, she's not falling for the ruse because she knows this is what he wants to do. That. But then he's like shows her the pyre outside. They're about to start. He shows her the stake she's going to be burned at, and it's like, and then she's
fake the scene of everyone leaving.
Yeah, so everyone literally leaves. Yeah, so she can.
They're setting that up. Like
because you see the other priest like stick his head through the window looking at.
Like, well, you're good, like basically.
Yeah, like it's like. It's so fucked up because they call 2 people in off the street or something like that. One priest that looks in through the window calls 2 people off the street to hear her confession, and it's like, and the guy makes her confess by literally threatening her child because it's like, if you don't confess, we're gonna kill this child for being the son of of a witch. And it's like, well, what are you gonna do anyway? If she confesses, you're gonna kill the kid anyway. Which I mean, she's not thinking that because she's just trying to save her son.
By this point, we've understood like none of these trials are real.
Yes, exactly. They're just like, all this is just like for show. They're going to kill these people no matter what, basically.
They've already made the decision. Beforehand.
Yes.
And because like literally like this child, when she finally, they threaten with the child, and she finally, confesses to being a witch or whatever. Or she doesn't so crazy. Yeah, she's like, I heard from someone else that this is how you do it. Stone cutter, and they're like, oh, we got her. She's a witch. Like she didn't even she barely she did the bare minimum.
Yeah, she was like, I heard from a stone cutter that all witches have to do is put their hand in water, and she puts her hand in the water, and then like they were like, ha! The guy literally pops out and like
shot. Yeah, pops out. Yeah, it's a funny shot.
It's like, we got you.
It kind of reminds me of the meme on Twitter, like, we should improve society somewhat. Yeah, you live in society.
You live in society, don't you?
No, it kind of reminds me of that.
That definitely does, dude. And then that chapter ends with, like, one of my favorite quotes saying, and then they will burn you too, maiden, as edification for man, as sweet scent for God. And one pyre after another burns in the town square until the judges will one day move on to the next town. The witch madness, like a spiritual plague, ravages wherever those judges go. In the span of a few centuries, over 8 million men and children were burned as witches.
Wow. Yeah. No, because I remember that shot they're talking about where all those the trial, whatever they are, judges or whatever, they're all sitting outside that prison where she is. And it's like, just...
And then they move on to the next town.
Exactly,
pick up and leave.
Yeah, it's like a job for them.
And then part 6. This is where it opens with saying women would sometimes confess in transforming into cats and soiling the altar of gods.
No, because they literally said some stories were really insane or something.
Yeah. And then it actually shows the scene. It's pretty cool. It's because it's got those 2 pig-like guys out there, and then it just has a bunch of cats walking out. But women would get burned at a stake for confessing that they tied a knot in a marriage bed. This just basically has a lot of it's just showing a lot of the things that would get people accused of witchcraft, basically, and how ridiculous they are, like you said. But then it gets to some of my favorite scenes again of just discussing and showing the torture tools used, and how we would also be driven to confess such ridiculous talents in the face of these torture tools. And I wrote down what all of the ones that were shown: metal pincers, which are the ones I think those ones were actually heated metal pincers, which is the one used on they clamped onto her armpits. I just wrote down foot smasher, definitely not what it's actually called, but that's what it is. A hammer to the fingers. Every depiction of these, they thankfully don't do them, obviously. But just imagining it, it makes my skin crawl, especially the finger one.
And some of these are when he shows the documentary.
They're showing the actual tools, and they're having people put their hands into them and lock them.
That's what I was gonna say. My favorite one was the thumb screw.
The thumb screw, because he literally said, "My actress wanted to do this. I promise. I didn't do this on purpose. I didn't make her do this."
and then he says, "I will not share the confession I got from her."
I will not share the confession I got. But we have the leg breakers, the torture rack, which is just that rack, the stretch rack, the spike collar, and this is the one where it actually describes how it was used in the depiction, because it was the spike collar. It describes it as the collar was tightened with 4 ropes, and they started a fire under them, and as the fire got hotter, their violent jerks would stab them, the collar would start stabbing them, and that's how they would torture them with that.
I mean, it's kind of crazy how much creativity went
I was about to say
torture.
It was an art. I mean,
it was an art.
It is an art. By saying it is an art, is that's how torture masters would actually consider their job. That's how they would.
It was an art in terms of they put a lot of thought and creativity into it.
Too much.
They were masters of the craft.
Yeah, they were.
They were. Yeah, and so then it got the painful interrogation begins with the thumb screw, like you said, and I just said shaking my head, but and then after that it said fear of the devil led to self-punishment in convents, and then this is where the sexual repression is also a huge thing to me, but because this is the one I think where it's just the scene of the nuns in the convent and the devil's there getting that one nun to stab with the knife to stab the I think it was a communion thing.
Like when they all go crazy.
Yeah, where they all go crazy at the end.
Yeah. No, because the way this scene starts is because I wrote the exact quote down, or not the exact quote, but these women wrote with touching sincerity how the devil entered the convent. Yeah. And he almost feels like sorry for them. Like he's like sympathetic towards them because like you're saying, like you're raised in this kind of environment, you know, like you can break at any moment almost, and the way you break is through the ideas you've been taught, basically.
Yeah. And it's like, well, first off, the scenes of the devil is just kind of like, this is the first scenes with the devil where I think it's kind of just funny because his tongue movements are hilarious. But like the takeover of the convent is interesting. But like at the very end is kind of what you're talking about, where he says like in their diaries we always see the same cry: the devil forced us into it.
Yep.
You know, and that's how the chapter ends. Yep. And then we go into chapter 7 where it's more so. This is the end. This is the last chapter. Okay. It's more so talking about modern day. You know. But he actually starts by saying, we leave aside actual devil possession, speaking in tongues and convulsions, and come to present day. That's how it opens. And so it cuts to a retirement home after that, and saying how, like, in the old days, it only took one or two things for, like, an old woman to stand out and be, like, and be called a witch, you know, and now they're like, let us not believe like the devil belongs only in the past, because now what we do with our old people, we just send them to a fucking retirement home so we never have to think about them again. You know, like that's in some ways in a lot of ways that's worse than death to these people. But
because the way and this is such an interesting scene too, because it's like it is in some ways like it's like leading us back to here's modern times. You know, it's like it's almost setting you up for it's not as bad as back then, and he's right. Like it is not as bad as it was back then, even in his time. But at the same time, like he says. Let us not believe like the devil only lives in the past. Yeah. You know, like like you said, both can be true. The nursing home is better than what they were doing with old people. Like when they didn't know what to do with old people, just call them a witch and kill them. Yeah. Like it's better than that, but still, like it's not great how it's not treat our old people now, like he says.
Yeah. And that's just a really great scene in general. But like after that, we had Maria the Weaver. This is like one of the more interesting scenes where he like talks to Maria the Weaver and like just like frankly, just as a real person, you know. Yeah. And she says that like the devil is real. She sees him sitting at our bedside, and the director shows her a prayer book with her permission, you know, like and showing like the devil's true form and stuff like that. But like that scene itself, like it doesn't lead anywhere really. It was just like a scene of him. I mean, at least to like him showing her the prayer book, but I don't really know exactly why you put that in there. Maybe just to say like as we get older, like. Stuff like this can become more real as we are closer to death. That's for sure. Yeah. But like I don't know. Maybe that's what I just felt like.
And honestly, I didn't think too much what he was trying to say. I almost just found it interesting that like he was breaking the fourth wall with his own with the own actress. You know, like it's weird that he's being but he's being like very it's not experimental almost, but he's playing with the form. Yeah. You know, like I was saying, like Dante's Inferno feels like one thing, right? It's going A to B to C like it is a theater. But this one is like he's seeing you can do he's changing genres almost midway, right? And he's breaking stuff. He's like it's a really interesting movie, honestly. Especially since like it's educational too. Like he's trying to, at least for that audience, he's trying to be very educational. You know, there were even in the 20s, obviously a lot of people that were still very.
There are people that still believe in.
I mean, even today, now,
so like
it's his inner Vista, you
know. So like, well, after the Maria the Weaver scene, like I think that's our last scene with her. He illustrates like how the multiple different nervous disorders could be attributed to witchcraft. You know, like he shows the woman walking with the lit match, you know, sleepwalking and stuff like that. Yes. Compares that to the. I love how he compares. It's not contrasting, but how he compares it, because he compares the woman walking with the lit match to like the nun walking with the knife. You know, sleepwalking with the knife. Like he literally cuts the two back to back.
He's explaining basically like what people in the past didn't want, an explanation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like he's trying to do that.
He's trying
this
to
is what's actually happening, you know?
Yeah, because he goes on to explain how these disorders are all caused by hysteria.
Yes.
And then he goes on to show how like in medieval times the devil was thought to place invisible marks on the back. This is the scene where like the torturers would find where the torturers would poke a spot in the woman's back, and that she wouldn't feel it. And then this is also, so before I get more into that, this is also another part where you were talking about like this is maybe just this is kind of just what the priests wanted. Like they just wanted these women to be put in the situation because that scene specifically where the torturer comes in to test her back, he literally just rips her blouse off like that, and the priest is just looking there like with his eyes like, oh and then he's like and then he like starts poking her back and she can't feel anything, and he's like, ha, you're a witch. No,
I mean, dude, think about it. Like, it's weird to think about but the only time these guys were going to see a woman's back was if they could accuse someone of a witch. Yeah, basically.
Like it's really fucked up to think about it like that, but that is that's at least how some people died. For sure.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Like we can't say what every priest's like intention was, but this is definitely one of the reasons why it was happening a lot. Yes. You know.
Yeah, because like after that, the Christensen says this is a common cause in hysteria.
I mean, and I love this too because like he uses it to explain like. Because a lot of the reports would be like, oh, like they would torture these women for a long time. Yeah. And they would have nervous exhaustion, and then they would act like quote unquote witches, you know, and they would notice these symptoms of witches that they would find after torture. But literally, like he says, they were just, it's like you're making them exhausted, people, and then they were showing signs of being exhausted, basically. Yeah. You know, and if that's a sign of a witch to you, then I guess everyone that's exhausted like that is a witch. So. Yeah. You're making witches, dude. Yes, like that's literally what they're doing. Yes. I mean that's kind of what the whole movie is like the church makes the witches, but but this is the next quote that I wrote down. It's poor little hysterical witches. In the past you were in conflict with the church, now it is the law. Yep. Because it cuts to the one lady being like tested by her, like her family brought her in to test her for hysteria. And she doesn't want to be tested for that because she doesn't want to go to a mental asylum, which is where they would send and this is what I'm troublesome young ladies. Yep. Like, and this is exactly what I'm talking about, where I was like, initially you think this ending scene is like almost like, like reassuring the crowd, like, okay, at least we're in modern times now, you know, we don't have to worry about that kind of thing. But then this scene especially, where it's like a woman, she has no control of whether she's being accused of hysteria or not, right? It's based up to the law. Yeah. And the law, like this doctor, the law is basically this one guy. Yes. You know? Yeah. And he doesn't maybe directly reference it, but the scene before, he is testing her. Like her clothes are off.
Yes, he's doing the same thing. Yeah. He's comparing it to the other
and that's when he makes the decision, she has to stay here for a long time, you know? Yeah. Like, and I think he's trying to make that connection there. Maybe not directly, but I definitely saw it like that. So.
No, I think he is too. Because he does that, like this whole chapter is intercut between the past and the present the entire time because and we go like right after that we go back to the scene of the nun stealing the bust of the baby Christ, you know, and that's cut with the woman stealing the ring from the jeweler and how she explains to the jeweler like after that she starts to explain it. She's like she gets caught, she explains she hasn't been in her right mind because she lost her husband in the war, you know.
And but she doesn't steal jewelry though, she steals a pocketbook. Because she says something like she stole a pocketbook. It was in Russian.
No, yeah, she stole a pocketbook too.
Yeah, she's like, I don't even know.
No, because she went to a jeweler and stole the ring, and then she got taken back there. She gave the ring back and starts explaining why. And she's like, yeah, I just steal things for no reason now because like I stole this Russian book as well, and I don't even read Russian. Like, why did I steal this? Okay. And she's basically just explaining like she hasn't been in her right mind after World War One. Very valid point, and losing her husband in World War One, another very valid point of someone not being in her right mind, and she probably just needs money from losing her husband in World War One. So like she's probably just stealing a ring for that too. Yeah. But after that, it goes on to say that while we no longer sit in churches, scared of the fresco devils, which just shows the fresco devils, that's pretty cool, on the wall, and there are no witches flying around, brooms.
That is a good shot, at least, when they say the witches no longer fly on broomsticks. Yeah. And they show two women pilots.
They cut to Amelia Earhart. I'm pretty sure it was Amelia Earhart flying. At least that's I'm pretty sure.
I just thought it was a woman pilot, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Amelia.
It works. Yeah.
Actually, let me make sure. When did she fly? Yeah, I was saying, when did she fly? When did she exist? Let me check this real quick. When did she make her flight? Oh no, I can't find it fast enough.
Okay. Did you find it?
Sadly, I love how sadly no. Yeah. But if someone else find this while I continue on.
Horror month. What were we talking about? Amelia.
Horror month.
I can look this up.
Because he cuts it with that, but then he says like, but isn't there still superstition rampant amongst us? Yes, and then it shows like all the psychic cards and or like the psychics and the card readers and palm readers and all those people.
Yeah. Oh, she died in January 5th, 1939.
Yeah, but when did she do her flight though? This movie was 1922. I'm pretty sure she did before that because she did like after World War One. So I'm pretty sure she did before that. Yeah, but it would make sense because she was the first woman pilot to fly over the Atlantic. So I don't know. I feel like that's what he's saying, but yeah, it cuts to them to like all those.
She took her first flight in 1920.
Let's go. It's her probably. No, it's not. Don't take my word for it, but probably is. So
I mean, we get the idea.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a pilot.
Women fly. Women fly.
This is 1922. So
yeah.
It would actually
I'm pretty sure that's what it was, but.
No, but more importantly, he says, "Oh, but
superstition is still here." You know, like, and where would these women be? You know, like if they were back in the day, basically is what he's asking.
Yeah.
Because he asks, "Is there a difference between witches then and now?" And then he's like, "We no longer burn our older poor, but are they not still suffering bitterly?"
Yeah.
And then it cuts to like the woman that we followed getting locked in the mental ward, and she's being forced into a scalding shower. And then it cuts with the fires.
Dude, you missed maybe my favorite quote in the movie.
Okay.
Is, "And the little woman whom we call hysterical, alone and unhappy, isn't she still real to us?"
Yeah.
Like, basically, even he's admitting, like, we don't know all the reasons why this happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Basically. Like, she's still a riddle to us today.
She
like,
is.
Like she was to the past, but like that doesn't mean we should kill them, you know.
Exactly. Or just block them away. To like not make problems for us, basically.
Yep.
Because I love the ending shot because it's them forcing her into a scalding hot shower.
Yeah.
Cut over the shot of witches burning at a stake.
Yep.
And then it just ends.
Because it kind of is making both points. Like obviously a hot shower is better than being burned at the stake.
Yes, but if you're being forced,
it almost feels like they're doing the same kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know, like they're doing the same thing almost, like punishing her for something that maybe is outside of control.
Yeah,
right.
No, I fucking love Häxan.
It's a great movie too.
It's one of my favorite silents. One of my favorite horror movies. It's a great movie, honestly. Everyone
there's not no other silent movie quite like this one.
I don't think so.
It definitely is genre bending and.
It's got everything in it.
I also wanted to mention the restoration
is insane.
Like
really
there was
too.
like
which also helps. Yeah, that's a big factor too. Like for our perception of it. Too.
Yeah, I remember like watching it. Like usually when you're watching silent films, you'll see like the I don't know like the how will you call it, but the
it's just it's just the wear and tear. It's just the wear and tear of the film.
But this one it's like flawless. Like
it is, dude.
Wow. They did a really good job.
Like Criterion
one of the first close-ups you see in the movie too of like a face.
Yes,
and it's like holy shit. Like it's like a silent movie shot like this guy.
No, it's like watching Passion of Joan of Arc, but that came out like 6 years later. You know, it's like
the color filters too.
But this one has color too. That's what also made me
which is really cool. So
no, it's like if Criterion doesn't use their Wally money to do more shit like this, I'm gonna be so fucking pissed. But
hey, Wally stands on its own, right, Luke?
Wally stands on its own, right, Luke?
Let's not get it.
We won't get into it.
I don't want to get bullied here. Like I'm gonna get ganged up on.
But that'll end our first week of horror week. We finally got to some silent horrors. You know, that was fun. It was a fun time, honestly. I love talking about these movies.
And honestly, I kind of because like I was telling, maybe I said it before the podcast, but Benjamin Christensen, he also directed a straight documentary on witches, like that came out like 30 years after.
Yeah, no, we didn't. We definitely need to watch that.
Yeah, so I kind of want to see that too.
No, I mean this director is one that I don't have. Well, I honestly just don't have a lot of like. And also, just sorry for messing up on the podcast last week. Häxan is not German; it's Swedish. But I have not journeyed into Swedish cinema enough. But I do want to watch more of this guy's movies specifically because I love how he tells.
Okay, I was wrong. It's not a straight documentary. It's okay. Let me just read the description on Letterboxd because it says it was directed by Benjamin Christensen, but it came out in 1968. A 1968 collaboration between jazz musician Daniel Humeyer and beat author William S. Burroughs that recuts and reinterprets the 1922 silent film Häxan.
Okay.
With a Burroughs' dark and wryly comic tone, essentially the first quote-unquote remix film.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know.
Häxan remixed? Yeah. Okay.
Which is crazy because this one feels like a remix itself.
It does, yeah.
I'm interested.
I am definitely interested in that.
But how long is it?
It's like 76 minutes, it said. So.
A little short.
Okay. I'm listening.
Yeah, 76. But what do we do next week?
Yeah, so next week we're going to do John Carpenter next week. Okay. We'll start with him, or we'll have him be in the middle. But
is he your favorite horror director? Or
definitely one of them. He's my favorite. He's one of my favorite American directors in general. But we're going to be discussing The Thing, Luke's all-time hated film. No, I'm just kidding. Whoa. He's like, we're getting into this already.
We're giving you a chance to rethink it.
I'm going to rewatch it. We're
giving you a second chance to be right.
Yeah, I'm giving you a second chance to be right.
I'll try my best.
So we're watching The Thing. We'll be watching my favorite John Carpenter movie, In the Mouth of Madness, and then we are also adding on his short that he made for Masters of Horror, Cigarette Burns. Okay. So that'll be a fun time. All three of those movies are fantastic, and all very different horror movies than what we watched this week. So, and so, anyone else have any last words before I close it?
No.
All right. Until then, we hope to see you floating through the clouds.